Right, if you have seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I don't have a palette. I don't have a paint palette. So I thought it would be a super cool idea to have a go at making one with some of this air dry clay. Now, I have used air dry clay before. I'm not convinced I'm using it properly, but I have made some little candle holders. I'll just quickly show you. They were very rustic with some gold leaf in the middle. If you'd like me to do a tutorial on those, then do let me know in the comments, because I would be very happy to show you how to make those. But these are really lovely because when the tea lights are lit, it reflects across all the gold leaf there. So yeah, anyway, I don't know if I use this correctly. I've basically just cut a block off and made things with it. So we'll give it a go. And if you're an expert on this stuff, do let me know if I'm doing anything wrong. So I don't want my palettes to be huge, but I'm going to make 2 today. Yeah. Yuck. I'm going to make one for paint, for acrylic paint, and I'm going to make another one to hold my inks when I'm using them, because I'm always paranoid I'm going to knock the bottle over. So this rolling pin I have just for clay, and how big do I want these to be? I don't know. Let's try this, shall we? Let's cut off, that's just under 1/3, isn't it? Am I supposed to knead this first, or can I just use it as it is? It's quite sticky. I mean, I don't know. Now, the table might wobble as I do this, so I apologise if the camera wobbles too. So I'm not actually worried about the shape of this palette, but what I would like it to be is functional. So I want it to be quite deep, but not too deep. So maybe I need to roll it flat and then add some, or maybe I need to cut some out from the middle. So this is a craft challenge, not a tutorial. So I'm making this up as I go along, because I know what I want, but I don't know quite how to achieve it. So I'm going to go for this method. We could try another method later if I've got time. I'm going to gouge some of this out. That's not working, is it? That's not working at all. Right, that's not working at all. Okay, look, we'll squidge that up and we'll roll it out again. Does that mean I'm getting air bubbles in there now? Probably. Or maybe I'm supposed to knead it anyway. I don't know what I'm doing. Right, I'm going to try again. I am going to roll this out. There's an air bubble there, look. And I'm going to cut it. How big do I want it? About that. Yeah, I don't want it very big. So I have limited experience with air dry clay and very limited experience with clay, but I am aware that you need to kind of, when you're sticking pieces on the side, you need to kind of wet it and mottle it a little bit. So I'm going to find an old toothbrush and ta-da. Okay, and so I want 2 sides. Yeah. would be very, very happy to hear from anyone who can help me improve this process. But you know, if it turns out that I've got something functional at the end of it, that's okay too. And I do believe that it's a good idea to kind of use some bits of wood to make sure that everything is the same thickness. I don't know how I've picked these things up over the years, I just have, but that's clearly not what I'm doing. Right. Okay. This could go horribly wrong, couldn't it? Like it already is. I need to concentrate. It's very slippery now. And it's stuck. I want some greaseproof paper, that's what I need. I am completely out of greaseproof paper, so I'm going to use a bit of cling film. I wonder how many people are shouting at their screens right now. I'm very much just making this up as I go along, and I apologise if this offends anyone, but you know, I've never done this before. Back of the knife to kind of press it into place to try and blend the bits of clay together. I just want a low palette I can put a little bit of paint in, and so that I'm not forever pulling little bits out of the recycling. Oh my goodness me, this is incredibly bad. I mean, I'm not terribly bothered what the end result looks like. I just want it to be functional. So I just want it to hold water, so I know I'll need to varnish it and paint it and do something with it. Yeah, I just want it to hold water and hold paint and be easy to wash. And I know I can also sand down the edges at the end if they're not quite straight. You can hide a few blemishes with a bit of varnish as well. Right, so my only other requirement is to have a little notch so that I can rest my paintbrush in it. Goodness me, this is really bad. But you know, if we don't try these things, how will we ever know? Right, so this is my very bad basic template. I don't know if it will hold together, but I have every intention of, when it's dry, sanding this top down so that it's even, sanding the sides so it's even, and then I will paint it and varnish it. So okay, that's stage one. But the other project that I wanted to do was to have a little ink pot holder. Now for this one, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I just want a slab of clay, and I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to split these up into two projects or one, but this is my theory. If I press the ink bottle in, and give it a little wiggle, because I know this stuff shrinks, and if I put another one this side, give it a little wiggle, oh dear, how many people are shouting at the screen again? I mean, I'm not making these to sell, I'm making these to be, you know, a bit of a functional project, a bit of a functional item rather, that will serve my needs. It doesn't have to be pretty, and I'm fairly sure that it won't be pretty, but if it works, I'll be quite happy to make a prettier one. So the air dry clay does shrink a little bit, so I've given that a little bit of a wiggle. I might need to sand it at the end. The intention is that one side I will use for the ink and the other side I will use as a brush holder. So I think what I'll do, I'll use one of my wooden sticks. That's worked a bit better than right. It's not perfect, but as with my other little palette, I'm hoping that this will dry nicely and then I can smooth it down. And yeah, I mean, the thing is, right, if you don't have a go at things, you never know. And there's always people out there who know the full and correct process. And, you know, if you enjoy working with clay, then obviously the more you practice, the more techniques you learn. And it's the same with anything. You have a go at something simple and basic, and if it works out, you then move on to making something a bit more elaborate, and then from there you pick up tips and tricks and things kind of sink in a little bit. So I'm going to let these dry, and next time, in a few seconds, hopefully these will be dry and we can move on to the next stage. Wish me luck. Right, so it's taken several days for these to dry, and they're very rough around the edges and they definitely need some sanding. And there has also been quite a bit of shrinkage going on. I did definitely wiggle these about so that they would have some extra room, and on this corner, this edge, I'll need to sand a little bit extra away to make sure that the ink pot can fit in there. So that's a bit disappointing because I definitely did leave some space. So I'm gonna take these outside. I can't film it because I can't take everything outside, but I will definitely just go and sand these down and then come back and show you where we're at. Just a little note to anyone else who might be doing this. I was shaving off the edges with a scalpel, and then suddenly I had a lot of red everywhere, and I couldn't work out if I had stabbed myself with a scalpel or if it was the red ink that was leaking. Thankfully, it was the red ink that I'd managed to unscrew the lid of the bottle on. Anyway, I have made this fit. I have got this sitting nicely in there, but because I'm going to paint it and varnish it, I'm going to just scalpel off a little bit more around the edges. It might be a bit too loose then, but yeah, we'll see what I can do with that. So I have done the sanding on both of these, and like I said, I'm just trying to make that fit perfectly. I think that's a pretty good fit for the bottle. But yeah, if you're making one of these yourself, perhaps use a different colour ink, and then you'll be able to tell very clearly whether or not it's ink or blood. Anyway, I shall scrape off a little bit more of this, and then I'll come back to the video. Right, so all I did was I got a sanding block and I sanded down the edges. It's still quite rough and ready, but that's okay. I've never done this before, and so long as it does the job, I'm not really that bothered about the finish. If I was worried about the finish, I would have probably watched a tutorial before I started. And this one, well, I've got this to fit. There's a bit of space now, and what I'm going to do with this one is make this bit a mixing area and this bit to hold the ink, and this one's just going to be a palette. So for the inside of the palette, I am going to paint with acrylic paint, and then I'm going to just paint and decorate the edges of the outside. And once the acrylic paint is dry, I will be varnishing it so that it will be water safe as well. Now what I wanted to do with the edges of these ones is put a little bit of gold leaf on, because I've got some spare, and well, why not? So I am simply going to put some glue around the top edges. Empty out a few flakes. Right, we'll leave that to dry and we'll come back to it later. Right, I think we'll add a bit more colour. And I'm not being very precise, you'll see why later. is one of my favourite ways of applying the gold paint to anything that I've made. It's just, I don't know, I kind of just like this whole experimental, let's just go do what happens kind of thing. And believe you me, the end result on that will be quite lovely. So I'm going to let that dry again, and then I'll come back and finish the gold leaf, and then once that's all dry I will apply the first coat of varnish. So I'm just using a dry paintbrush to just press down the gold leaf. Just so I can see whether or not I would like to add some more, really. And I think I will add a little bit more on this one, but I'm quite happy with that one. And the ink pot does still fit. It's quite snug, but that's exactly what I want, because I don't want to accidentally knock it over. I'm worried that I might, you know, knock it on the table and it will spill. And this just is much more solid and heavyweight, and it's not going to slide about. So I'm pretty pleased with that. I will just finish off the flakes on this one. Right, so I'm going to just leave these overnight to fully dry, and as you can see these are very, very rustic, but I am hoping that they will be functional. So all I've done is roughly shape them, roughly paint them, and roughly cover them with a little bit of gold leaf, just for a little bit of sparkle, because who doesn't like a little bit of sparkle in their life? And so what I'll do, and I'm not sure if I'll film this because I might have to do this out in the garage, is I'm going to apply a good layer of varnish all around the centre and the outside of this palette, and then I'll turn it over and do the same on the back, because I want this to be completely waterproof when it is dry and usable, because I want to be able to wash it out under the sink. This one I just need to give it a light coat of varnish, and again, oh my goodness, it's completely rustic, but that's fine. I'm not making these to sell, I'm making these just to be functional for me. And I did this in the same colours, and yeah, so hopefully that will look quite nice, and I can rest my paintbrush in here, mix the inks together in here, and yeah, hopefully these will both be quite functional pieces. So I have varnished these. I've varnished them on the bottom, a little bit scruffy, and varnished them on the inside, and I'm really hoping that these will serve my purpose. I wanted them to be waterproof, which is why I've used a very thick, heavy yacht varnish, which took ages and ages to dry, but it is dry now and I am hopeful. And as for the ink one, well, I would have liked it if I could have made that smoother, but that's fine. That will be fine. It will hold my paintbrush just in there when I'm not using it, and the same with this one as well, which is ideal, really. I'm wondering if I should have put one in that side as well, because sometimes I use more than one paintbrush, but hey ho, it's fine. So the real test is whether or not it will hold the ink. Ta-da! So this really needs quite a bit of sanding down around the edges, but it fits nicely, and you know, it's a bit more sturdy on the table, I did think about putting some felt or something on the bottom so that it wouldn't be as shiny and slippery, but then I won't be able to wash them. So I haven't come up with a solution for that bit yet. And I do hope that in the new year I will be able to use these when I'm doing my tutorials and all my projects. I mean, yeah, they're a little bit rustic, they're a little bit sloppy around the edges, but they're just for my own use, and so I'm not really that bothered. So thank you for watching. If you have made it this far, oh, thank you. Do give me a thumbs up if you have got this far, because your support is really very much appreciated.